So let me start by introducing myself. My name is Khalifeh Jadda. I'm the founder of this conference, the Southern Data Science Conference. And currently, I'm a director of data science at Google. And I have with me on the stage today two of the great leaders in the data science community. I have Abdel, who has more than 15 years of leading data science and BI organizations. In fact, my very first job in data science, which was with Career Builder, was under this man. He was the chief innovation officer at that company. And Abdel also is an entrepreneur. So at this point, actually, he's running around 3 companies that work on data science and BI products. And the other gentleman with me on the stage, another great actually mind especially in the HR space. I have Marcus Sawyerr, who has more than 18 years in HR tech. And Mark actually led the digital transformation for Adecco Group, which is a private equity.
It's a large recruitment company, $24 billion group.
Yes, so they manage about $40 billion of assets. And then he served also on the board of Microsoft Services, and then he's now the founder and CEO of EQ and EQ Community. And EQ is a hiring platform that is focused on diverse talents. So I know you are all enjoying the lunch, so I don't want to ask you to give applause, but please join me in welcoming the both gentlemen, Abdel and Marcus.
Great to be here.
Thank you.
All right. So I want to start now with the big question, the demand for data-related jobs. We all know that the job market is hot. But the question is, do we think that the data-related jobs will be and will stay in high demand in the future? And I would like to start with Abdel, get your insights about that.
I think the data job, I call them data job because they will be BI and data science. The future is bright. But what I see, the trend the past 2 years, this year, what I see the demand is shifting from different industries, from not just tech. It's going to healthcare, manufacturing, especially the green energy, electrical car. And I see a lot of demand in Washington and DC and all the consulting firms. In the past, it was concentrated in San Francisco. What I see is a data project spreading out across the nation.
Thank you, Abdel. Marcus?
Yeah, just to add to that, I think irrespective of the looming recession, even today, there was a hike on interest rates in Europe in particular, but there's 11.2 million open jobs right now as we speak. Now, a lot of the companies are transforming into data-driven organizations. So the other stat is that on average, a company would have 28 data-related folks inside their organizations. That's now gone up to 50. Wow. And from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there's 19,800 open jobs within data science today. So that's just kind of like setting where we are today. And one thing I was thinking about this earlier is like data information is not becoming less and less. Right. It's becoming more and more. And then the hard part is how do you then find the insights, the knowledge, and the wisdom from that. And I think that you're going to start to see the ecosystem grow more and more, to Abdel's point.
Wow, that's impressive. And I think one time I looked also at one data point that was provided by our friends at MZ. And it shows that the trending, they kind of plotted the demand and supply. And there was a huge gap between the demand and supply. Like the demand is way higher than the supply in the data-related jobs. And the forecast was saying that it is just going to keep getting bigger, the gap between, like the demand will go higher, the supply actually is not catching up with it. Now, that's great. The question then becomes for the talents or the people who are interested in getting into data-related jobs, what are the skills or the skill set that you are seeing now of high demand in the job market for the data-related jobs? And let's start with you, Abdel.
I think the most common one by far is Python, what I see across all the job board. By the way, I'm going to send you an MZ report. I still have access to the MZ supply and demand. The second one is SQL. Third one is sort of analytic, because what I see with all my clients, they want to build a data science practice. Then the first question I ask them, do you have a BI practice? Because what you need is, you need a BI, you need to centralize your data engineer, then apply data scientist. And I tell all data scientists, you want to learn SQL, you want to learn some visualization. But if I ask the client, who do you prefer the data science? They usually said, I like your best employees. They said, I like people who know technical, but usually they bring up the soft skill. He can convince us. He has storytelling. He can sell us. He can present it. So I think my recommendation, I meant a lot of data science over the years. I always said, don't just focus on deep learning or GP3. Focus on your soft skill. The hard skill gets you in the door. Soft skill help you move up.
That's a great insight. Do you agree, Marcus?
Yeah, I mean, we named our company EQ Community because we believe that emotional intelligence is just as, or if not important, than the IQ part of it. So I think, to Abdel's point, being able to really comprehend the problems that exist and then what you're trying to solve and the objective is absolutely key. We were talking about this earlier. There's 91% of people inside of big organizations say they want to invest in AI, but the deployment level is only at 14%. So you're actually going to need more people that can understand the problems and being able to align that to the business to bring it through. So I think that's going to be a key skill, and you're also going to see a lot more interactions between, to Abdel's point, the kind of frontline, the solutions architects, folks that are out in the field, and those that are building those models, especially if your product is frontward facing. So yeah, I think soft skills are going to be absolutely key. And then there's also like just technologies, and we were talking about this earlier. You can see by the technologies that are growing with an ecosystem, and then you can start to spot the trends and the skills that are going to be required for that as well. And we know some of the big ones that are out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as a hiring manager, I couldn't agree more, because I think the soft skills are no longer just nice to have within the candidates, especially in the data science. They're actually a must-have. They become kind of, core competency in the interviews, because if you are a great data scientist with the technical skills and you know how to build the best model and do the best predictions, but then you don't know how to communicate that with the business who don't speak actually the data science language, then that actually is not going to go well with the business. And I still remember also when I started my career, I joined Career Builder in the very first meeting when we went with Abdel and the other business leaders, and we wanted to present to them our findings about semantic search, which was the project we worked on at that point. And we just put on the slide a bunch of numbers and some of the technical terms there. And I think after 5 minutes of the meeting, they shut the meeting and they said, just go back and work on your slides and come to us with a business-friendly presentation. So that was a lesson we learned. You don't go present to them actually the LSTM model that we built or the neural network layer, hidden layers that you built. When you go talk to them, you need to speak business. So soft skills are extremely important. That's a good segue. Now let's go talk about with the pandemic and what we still living in as a result of the pandemic. Remote work become like a thing, a real thing, right? It was the main thing for the last 2 years. But now the question, with the remote work, do we see that also remote work trend continues? And also, do you think that's actually benefiting the data science talents, or it is actually not benefiting the data science talents?
Yeah, I think that's a really important question to answer. And I got a question for the audience, so there's going to be a little audience participation. Can you put a show of hands if in the last 12 months you have moved jobs? Okay. What's that as a percentage, you reckon, Khalifeh? 7% maybe?
Probably 10%.
Okay, 10%. Okay, and show of hands again, in the last 12 months, have you worked on different projects? Or have you worked on the same project for the last 12 months? Different projects? Okay.
Yeah, majority.
So I think what we're starting to see, and I think it goes to the type of work and the modality of employment. So there's many different ways that you can work, and not everybody's aware of them because they might have started in one particular way. You can be a full-time employee, you could be a contractor, you can be a freelancer, independent contractor, you can work for an agency, you can deliver on outcomes. So I think after the pandemic, what we started to see was, they said, the great resignation. So you started to see people switching and trying to find the right culture for them. Some people want to work in an office, and maybe it's the stage that they're at and they're early in their career. Some people might want to work from home because they've got to pick up the kids, or they've got family commitments and so on and so forth. So I think this time is about people finding the right company culture for them that molds to that organization. And I think organizations should be a bit more transparent around what it's like to work there. Because on the market material, you see all the great reasons, but you need to say, hey, like, you've got to be in this many days a week. This is how we expect the projects to get done. And then there's no surprises. So people are really finding the right fit instead of trying to impress just in the interview phase. So that's what I see starting to happen.
Abdel, what do you think?
I think the remote is interesting. Like Marcus said, the company going to win is the one that are flexible. The entry-level intern, I won't visit several companies. I travel every month. When I go visit the office, the intern and entry-level show up to the office because they don't have a network. Then I asked several CEO, I surveyed them last week. I said, who do you promote remote working? He said, basically, I'll push for promotion people who have the best communication. Because we have too many meetings. I'm Zoom call. I'm tired of Zoom call. I want somebody who can send me an email and net it out. What's the ROI for this project? So what he's telling me, he's traveling, he's embracing. 3 or 4 CEO that I know who are embracing fully remote. He said, literally, I want somebody who can communicate, tell me the output, the input, what he achieved, without having it jumping on the Zoom call. But overall, what I see industry trend, the company that have hardware are forcing employees to come back. Manufacturing, anything you manufacture, pharmaceutical, I see a lot of things that are happening back in the thing. But overall, I think remote and flexible hybrid work is here. And one of my clients told me a platform, HR platform, as soon as they put the word hybrid in the job description, they get 30 to 50% more applicant. So it depends on your career. Entry level, you need to network. You need to meet people physically. But if you are senior, you're already established, it's all about soft skill.
Yeah.
And the last funny thing, I will tell you a funny story. I have a CEO here in Atlanta who tried to get his employee to come back remote. They refused to come back to the office. He invited them to baseball game, they all showed up. He invited them dinner, they show up at dinner. He invited them to park, they showed up at night. He's like, wait, I did 5 events, you all show up. Why can't you come to the office?
I think to Abdel's point, like, the reason why people are coming into work now, or coming to is to connect, and it's to network, and I think that changes the whole dynamic. To actually do your work as a data scientist, sometimes you don't need people around you. You need quiet, right? And you need to be able to think through it. But you do need to collaborate as well. So I think that's a really great point. I got another question. How many people in the audience are fully remote? Hand up. Okay.
Oh, wow.
How many are hybrid? Okay. And then how many have to go into the office? Oh, there's one person at the back.
Wow.
See, yeah, I'm not sure what that would be when you first started the conference, but it'd probably be slightly different, right?
Right. That tells a lot. That says a lot, actually. Wow. I think from my perspective, I guess the big question is about productivity. Like, and I want to ask also here, like, if we have some managers or directors or above, do you see the data scientists who work on the remote setup more productive than the data scientists who work in office, or at least pre-pandemic, post-pandemic? Like, do you see the data scientists more productive when they turn to remote post-pandemic versus pre-pandemic when they were in office? So raise your hand if you believe that the productivity went up when the data scientists become remote, if you are a leader. Okay, and raise your hand if you think the productivity went down when the data scientists actually become remote.
We haven't got many voters. I think there's a lack of voters.
Yeah, lack of voters.
Yeah.
Maybe their data scientists are in the room. So
yeah, exactly. No one wants to answer. It stayed the same.
Stayed the same.
Okay.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I mean, I can tell my own story when I was before Google at Home Depot, and we become remote. Like before we become remote, I was commuting from Jones Creek to Home Depot office, which everyone lives in Atlanta knows it's a nightmare. It was 90 minutes each way, like 1 hour and a half each way. So that means if 3 hours of my day goes just commuting. And after like turning into the remote, I saved those 3 hours. So I personally felt like my productivity absolutely went way up because I can do the work without worrying about the commute, without wasting 3 hours of my time. So that's my own story, my own experience. But on the other hand, I think as a multidisciplinary field, data science, you need to socialize and be around people from time to time. It doesn't actually make sense because you need to be around the product people, you need to be around the engineering people. So I think you miss that thing where in the hallway while you're walking, you meet someone and you talk about like, hey, did you look at this problem that we're working on? And then they give you some ideas, or you basically hear something that actually gives you an idea to do something. So there is still like value, I think, in going back to office. It doesn't need to be every day, but at least the hybrid, I believe the hybrid is probably the right decision instead of the full remote. That's my own idea. All right. Let's talk about another interesting problem which any company that have data science teams face. Data is competition, right? Like data scientists sometimes when they have access to tons of data, the computation power is there, the skills is there to build models and do predictive models, things like that. Sometimes data scientists like start getting into like deep dive into the data just for the sake of exploring, without intended goal to add value or without any clear value that they can add at the end of that. And this becomes a problem, and I remember, I don't know, 2015 or so, a company fired an entire data science team because it turned out the team did not deliver any feature, any value to the business over the course of 12 months, because they were focused on conducting a cool research and publishing papers. And that's, I think, a problem all the companies know about that has data science research teams. Now, I want to talk about time to value for the data science teams. How important is time to value, and how important it is for the data scientists to deliver value, and how can the leaders in any company, the data science leaders or the business leaders, make sure their data science teams always are driving value? And I want to start with you, Abdel.
I think I want to recommend all of you to search the concept time to value on Google. Google it. So basically, how do you unleash the value for the customer? Any project. To Khalifeh's point, I've been to many clients when they want to shut down the data science. Marcus said earlier, 90% of CEO want to invest in data science, but only 14% project get it. Why? I call it R&D wilderness. I go do audit. I call it R&D wilderness. I find how data science are focusing on the paper for the next conference. So when the client asked me to come, I said, just do the basic. Unleash the value. I try to explain data science, and Amazon have a concept called input. People focus on output. Go find all the input. It's all data science is input, engine, and output. I say, guys, let's just unleash the value even with Excel. Let's get the input, quickly show to the business owner, the domain expert. Let's show him some output. Even with Excel, a simple statistic. And when you deliver time to value, you speed it up. You deliver for the short term. You earn the right for the medium term. If you deliver for the medium term, you earn the right for the R&D. And what I see, the trend was, like Khalifeh said, is a lot of PhD, a lot of papers, they focus on the long term. Then the budget get cut. So I think it's just balancing between BI and data science and unleashing the value.
Marcus? Yeah, just to add to that, I think on one hand, the companies have to get better at being able to manage data science. Because I think that you do want people to have these curious minds and to start exploring in areas where you didn't know there was something that exists. That's why we get a lot of these great projects. And then there's a shift from being a researcher, wanting to be ranked on Google Scholar and all these types of things, and then saying, okay, well, how can I deliver value to the business? But I think the leaders of those teams really need to be able to be the go-between between the data scientists themselves that they're managing and that executive team to make sure that you're getting that information of what's important and you're constantly reprioritizing. Because once you deliver value, like it's like anything, like once you've done your work, you're gonna have free time and play time, but I think you've got to kind of work towards that and show that it's still important. I think it's important to still play and look, but not all the time. And I think that finding that, striking that balance is really important, and some of the leaders have got to take a bit of ownership on it. I had to learn that the hard way, hiring data scientists for our hiring platform, right? Not really done that before, been a little bit more senior. Then I had to figure out, okay, how do I set tasks and objectives? But then how do you give them a little bit more space so they can come up with stuff that I didn't even know existed? Because that's the beauty of it as well. So I think there's a balance there.
Right, right. And I guess it's about like the KPIs which the leaders or the managers actually identify for their teams that matters. You don't want the data scientists to work without well-defined KPIs for them.
Yeah, OKRs, right? That's your...
Or OKRs, yeah, exactly.
Right.
So you need to give them something to quantify their work at the end. Like, does it add value or not? You don't want to just leave it like, oh, we did this and that, but then, okay, how can I quantify the value that you added to the business?
And I genuinely think, just from speaking to a lot of data scientists, I think people want to bring value, actually.
Of course.
And, but they're not sure on the fastest route to do that. So that, again, it's a communication thing, and if you can communicate with each other, then it makes it easier to figure out what the real thing is for the business.
Right. And sometimes, because I've been running data science teams for 10 years now, take the input or the requirement, business requirement, and then the data science team just go hide for 6 months or so, just working on the solution, and then they come back to the business, and the business find out that this is not what we wanted,
Right. Right.
So communication is a key, really. It's very important. Great. I want to just close with this question. As a hiring manager, and I know we have many hiring managers as well in the audience, one of the problems that we face when you are hiring is how to filter out or reduce the false positive, especially in this domain, data science, because it's a very competitive job market. Sometimes you really kind of rush the process because you don't want to lose the talent who went through the interview, blah, blah, blah. But how do you make sure that you reduce or filter out the false positive? You don't want to end up hiring someone who actually passed the interview, but when you put them on the ground, they actually don't know anything about what they want to do, right? So they just know how to ace the interview, but when you put them on the ground, actually they don't know how to do actual data science.
Yeah, so at EQ, we run a community, so it's a community first. And inside that community, we get a lot of insights on how people treat other people, how they work, if they're proactive, things that they do on the community to really kind of drive change. So that's more on the soft skill side. And I think for any of those types of positions, you've got to do hard skill tests, right? Especially in data science, you have to take people through that. And then I think that there's got to be an honest discussion, again, with the company on what it's like to work here and what we expect. Hiring is hard. Getting the right person in 30 days, 90 days is hard because you've got to go through an entire process. But I think that you can mitigate that by understanding what people do socially. It tells you a lot about who they are and how they may work in your environment, and then being transparent on what your culture is as well. But you have to do hard skill tests. I don't think there's any way around that, in my opinion.
Interesting. Abdel, what do you think?
In my case, I think I've done hard skill, like Marcus said. I go one step further because I have a lot of projects. I deal with a lot of companies, so I end up giving them a small project. I ask them, I want to hear their thought. After we pass the hard skill, I want to hear their, and then I want to see how they present. And like I said, lastly, what I do, people, when they give you a reference for the job, they give you their best friend. What I end up doing, I grab the person, I go on LinkedIn, I see if we have common friend. I call the reference early on the process. I don't call it afterwards. I call it earlier. Then I can eliminate, and again, look for hard skill, but a lot of them is how you network, how they work with other people. Because to be frank with you, with remote, you actually need more soft skill. Because you got to be able to connect with people on Zoom that you don't see.
Right. And I think that adds more value to the fact that the best hires you get most of the time are the ones you get from within a network that you know, right? The people that you know, people who refer actually people to you. So those are usually the best ones. And that's, again, highlight the value of, for the talents as well the hiring managers, the extremely high value of networking and building your own network. Physically, like through the events, meetups, conferences, as well as LinkedIn, like digitally. Yeah. Do you agree?
Referrals still the #1 source of hire for organizations. And again, like within our community, we can see, we act as like a company's third referral. So we can see how people are going to act when you're not necessarily looking. And that's also what it is. Once you've got the hard skills, again, to Abdel's point, those soft skills are critical around communication to get work done. So I agree.
Thank you.
Yeah, look, the dirty secret of the job board, we work, all of us in the job board industry, we've seen statistic, 60% of jobs get filled by referral. Yeah. So be aware. So network, build a network, expand, give more than take. That's what open door for you.
Right. Thank you, gentlemen. It was a pleasure to have you on the stage, and thanks for our audience for using their lunchtime to listen to us. Thank you all.
Thanks for having us. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Marcus.